What's going on? What's going on? This is Throwback Thursday, and I'm being joined by the one and only 97 Rough, aka Dave Duenas from Leave It in the Ring, and I have Joe Habib, aka The Beeb, now from Ringside Reporter, formerly from the Boxing Voice, formerly from Robodo Radio, formerly from the Beeb Boxing Report, and all that stuff. All right, there we go. Man, oh man, this
a lot of titles.
A lot of titles, bro. Like Apollo Creed, bro. Like what's going on here? But,
he's got more titles than Roy Jones and Mike Tyson put together right now.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, let's start off, man, right out of the gate. Let's just start right out of the gate. I released the video, the audio, I should say, footage of the epic encounter, let's just call it, where 97 Rough, Joe Habib kind of went at it. But before we talk about that night, I want to kind of give my take as far as how it all kind of progressed, right? Okay. Just like my idea. And
how embarrassing.
So, look, 97 Rough, Blood, Strike Cards, what am I forgetting? Rod Riddler. There's somebody I forget.
916 Chris, Budasai.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, they started Leave It in the Ring. This is a group of YouTubers. They got together, started Leave It in the Ring. Me, I had just started YouTube, and I was kind of doing, and I had started doing collaborations with Habib, and we were doing a pretty good job at it. And I remember one day I was talking to Joe Habib about, wouldn't it be cool if we could do like a show, and I'm not talking locally, but where all over the world people could call in right after a fight, post-fight show, because I couldn't find anybody doing it. There may have been radio stations doing it locally or something like that, but it wasn't something.
I don't think anybody was doing it, to tell you the truth. I don't think anybody, because I mean, you got to remember, like, I here's the thing. As a YouTuber and a lot of other guys that started YouTubing, and I think Joe can agree with me on this, is that we tend to discredit ourselves on certain things because we're not sure if it started or not. Right. And the truth is that we started there's a lot of trend that you're seeing now that we did way, way back. Yeah. I mean, the forums were like, remember the forums, the people who would argue on there, but on YouTube,
somewhat. Yeah.
YouTube itself was like the very first where you saw fans pick a subject and then everybody would piggyback off of and give their opinion.
Well, there you go. So from there, I was thinking, let's do a post-fight show, Right. And now I wasn't exactly sure how we were going to do it, but I was going to somehow do it, And when I saw you guys do Blogtalk, I said, oh, that's perfect. We'll just show somewhere around when the pay-per-view ends, and we'll do our thing, right? Now around that same time, and Beeb would know more details on this, is Rope-A-Dope Radio, was like, it was between Chris Carlson, Ashley Knuckles, and Joe Habib, right?
Right. And
then I had asked Beeb, I said, hey, why don't you just ask Carlito if I could just join Rope-A-Dope, right? Mm-hmm. And then, and we could also do post-fight shows, because I had the idea that him, Ashley, and myself could, join as well. So anyway, for whatever reason, maybe there was a misunderstanding somewhere. DStyle Boxing just, it wasn't going to be part of Rope-A-Dope, right? But so Joe Beeb and I came up with a 12th and final round along with JR, if you remember him. Okay, a bit of a Mayweather fan, but that's okay. All right, and maybe a bit too much. I don't think that stories about that. And then, of course, Julian Williams. And then there was... Yeah. So I don't remember who else was in it. Us four, that was about it?
Yeah, I think Calix was on the Rope-A-Dope show, but I don't. Right. He never really did the post fights with us.
Where did Carcino fit in all of this?
So Carcino was outside of it, but just so I don't lose my train of thought here. So once we were there, So we're there. I mean, I said, let's do a 12th to final round. And then I guess Carlito kind of came back around and said, oh, well, yeah, sure. You guys can do a post-fight show on Rope-a-Dope Radio, right? And so we started doing that. So what I noticed was we did a video on YouTube. And I don't know if you saw this or not, Ruff. But we did a video.
I don't remember. Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I said, we're going to do some groundbreaking stuff. We're going to be the first post-fight show in history. Like, we were pumping it up, right?
Right.
And then I saw on Leave It in the Ring, there was a scheduled show, right? and it was, you guys called it Aftermath, right? Yeah. And it was for Cotto Pacquiao. And I was like, what? And I called Joe Beeb and I said, all right, that's not going to be our first show. Our first show is going to be Dawson versus Johnson 2. Because we're going to be, God damn it, we're going to be number one. We're going to be first. And I couldn't make that show at the beginning, so I specifically...
It all comes out now, Joe.
I specifically told Joe Beeb, I said, Beeb, you make sure you say at the start of the show how groundbreaking this is, how we're the first, and nobody else was first. I made very sure to tell him that, even though I was showing up later, right? And then what I want to ask you was that part of the reason you called in? Like, did you feel like we were kind of throwing shots because we were first or something like that?
No, honestly, no.
All right.
I don't remember who asked me to be on, to tell you the truth. And it wasn't just me. It was me and Blood. So I remember having like the brief conversation with Blood was like, do you want to go on? And Blood was like, well, I'll go on if you go on, type of deal. And I was like, yeah, let's just go ahead. At that time, even for a long time, actually for a couple of years, like I felt attacked by a lot of folks because, for some reason I was the guy to go after. And I never was able to kind of understand that. Why was myself, why was I the guy that everybody said, that's the dude we need to go after. And that's the guy we got to beat, because I just never felt that. But then, when I started bringing other folks on, it became a competition because there was other folks that, they get in your ear. They're like, you can't have these guys, we can't have other guys do the same interviews. You can't. And so I was like fucking left to right all the time. Like, I didn't know what to do, because here was my whole start from YouTube was that I wanted to talk boxing with other boxing fans, but then immediately it became like a territorial thing, a tribal thing, which was weird.
Let me explain why I was competitive. Then I'll go deep here. So, because here we are, like, giving our time to Rope-a-Dope Radio, right? And we're coming up with this idea to do a post-fight show and all this and that. Even though whether you did it on purpose or not, we still saw it like, oh, now he wants to do a post-fight show. That's kind of how we. Right.
Now, I understand that. Yeah.
Like, it's not a big deal today if somebody else is but at the time,
bullshit, it isn't. Nah.
to me, it did. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. To me, it did. Now, and that's why it was that, like, we weren't gonna do it. We started with Dawson-Johnson, you know what I mean? But we just went ahead and did it with that. But one thing Carlito would always start. I don't know if you remember this, but he would start the show with. He would be like, hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Rope-a-Dope Radio every Wednesday. We're following in the footsteps of Leave It in the Ring. He would always say that.
I don't remember that.
I'm like, man, if you say that one time, okay. You know what I mean?
We can get you the sound.
Carlos. Where's he at?
We can get you the sound bite.
Yeah, like we're starting with footsteps of Leave It in the Ring.
I don't remember that,
So that kind of started. There was like.
He hated that. He hated when Carlito said that.
And then you have I'm over here like Strike Cards is talking shit about me, and Rod Riddler's over here, like always, coming on my videos, calling me a white boy, and these guys are over there leaving the ring. So I'm just like, I ain't following the footsteps of these dudes, like whatever, But I think that the fact that was going on, and he was saying that, and I just felt, I always wondered, like, why was he saying that? Was he trying to show that he doesn't want beef, or like that's kind of how I always interpreted it. Like, is it like are you saying, hey man, I don't want any trouble, so you guys were first, but we're following your footsteps, we're playing you homage? That's kind of how I saw it. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I kind of interpreted myself. But Joe Beeb, tell us how it went down, bro, when you were on that show.
Well,
and anything else you want to comment about?
First of all, you know this from the beginning. I never cared about being first. I always said it's not about being first. It's about being the best you can be, doing the best job.
Right.
Because when you go to a store and you're looking to buy a computer or a television set, right? You go to the associate. You ask the guy, give me the brand that came out first. No, you want the best brand when you go to the store.
Right.
So I never really cared about it. You guys kind of gassed me up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, guys gassed me up on that for that show. You know, you got me all pumped up. You know, and uncharacteristically myself, you know, I kind of got all pumped up. My adrenaline was flowing, whatever. I was excited, and you know, that was my first time.
Me and Joe though, we're like throwbacks though. I mean, if we're almost close in age, so we're like. You know,
we're very similar.
Very similar. Yeah.
And that's why I think we clashed.
Yeah.
But you know, I felt bad for the other guys because it seemed like you were like coming over the top on the other guys, and they were kind of like just cowering. So
that's
then
personality though, Joe, like yours.
Exactly. And I said to myself, you know, I mean, we don't have to attack the guy, but
Julian wasn't
challenge his points, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, I remember, like, and not to cut you off, Joe, like, just really quick to add to your point, like, I remember Julian speaking, he's all soft-spoken, he's like, yeah, I think that, you know, he's going to, well, what? Well, who's going to do what? What? And I just like, he like, Howard, yeah, okay.
Well, DStyle, let me, okay, so I didn't listen to the whole audio, and I'll tell you why I didn't. For one, I was embarrassed about it, okay, first off, okay. For two, I was in a place, and some folks are going to always question it, but I was really in a place where I felt attacked, not just from, not with you guys, but I was being attacked by the Boxing Truth, by fucking On the Grind. I mean, everybody was coming at me, and I really didn't get it, and I didn't receive it because just like Joe, we come from like, we're street guys. So if you're gonna come at me, I came already for war. And Joe was the same thing. Like we both were like, all right, dude, you're gonna fucking take your gloves off. I'm gonna take my gloves off. You know, so what you end up getting was if we were in a bar, and this would have happened.
That's exactly what it was. Barbershop bar type environment.
Yeah, you would have got that exact same type of scene if we were in front of each other, because we're not going to back down. We're just not those kind of guys. You know, we're going to call bullshit. You know, but at the same time, like when you put it out there again, I was like, dude, I don't want to fucking hear this. And the reason why is because you get older, you get wiser, you know, right. And then you realize that, you know what, you were fucking like, you're just being stupid. I was being stupid.
I was poking you too. I was poking you.
I think I was poking, like you said, I was poking the other guy because he was soft-spoken.
Yeah.
And then he had used the word impossible, which bothered me because I was like, impossible.
Yeah. So that was actually,
yeah. And I knew, all right, this is where I can dig this fucker and see whether or not
that word impossible. That word impossible was like your N-word, Dave. I didn't. Yeah. I could have. For the life of me, I couldn't figure that out. But I'm gonna be honest with you, it reminded me back when I was like in high school, sitting at the lunch table, you're just snapping off at each other on the, you know, it's shit that we did every day. And it honestly, even after that, I honestly, and DStyle can tell you this, because he kept saying, you know, they all kept saying, you know, you got to go after this. I said, nah, I had no problem with the dude. It was just that's just how I am. It was a snapshot in time.
You know what I think?
I never had a problem with you, and I can say that with 100% certainty. And DStyle can verify it because I never said anything after that. You know, and you and Guard Your Grill Boxing were the first two channels that I watched, And I loved them, and I had a ton of respect for you, because the one thing I liked about your channel was some channels, they just do interviews. Some channels, they just break news. Some channels, they just talk about gossip. Very few channels break down fights. Your channel did everything. You talked about history. You broke down fights. You did interviews. I thought you were well-rounded. I looked at you as the gold standard, and I'm just not saying that just because you're here. I looked at you as the gold standard.
And you've told me that before. Before the whole rope-a-dope. I remember that, because I remember you used to
always comment on your videos. Always.
Yeah, I was going to say, you comment and you used to challenge me.
I always supported you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you always supported me. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
I think what was happening was,
go ahead.
Us looking from the outside looking in, we did notice, because there were very public beefs like you and Blood had with On the Grind and all these other. These were pretty public, and a lot of times like very rough, like Well,
that's why they call me rough.
Yeah. So, and I think when Carlito would start the show saying that line, like, "Oh, we're here following the footsteps, leave it in the ring," and then I would have like Rod Riddler like talk shit about me and Strike Cards poking, and these guys are from Leaving the Ring, what I mean? And I'm thinking, I think there's some behind the shit going on, bro. That's just how I felt about it. Now, what I will say is this:
these guys gassed me up. I'm telling you, man.
After that, and look, man, like you said, just like you said, as
they gassed me up, man.
This was a mid-20s me. You know what I mean? Like I was.
Yeah.
I was 39, so I was still kind of, a little bit.
Yeah, we told you there would be blood. Look at this. We got Bloodboxing on here. How's it going, bro?
I'm being attacked, Blood. Help me out.
How's it going? Hey, brother,
what's going on, man?
So what y'all talking about?
We're talking about that infamous night. We're talking about. How was it being the man of reason, the guy trying to break it up, Blood? Like I was so used to Blood being the one talking shit. He was the one like breaking it up here.
Blood was the fanboy killer on YouTube, man. He was the fanboy destroyer.
You know what? Let me tell you this really quick before Blood even says.
That's what I used to love about him. He used to just destroy fanboys.
He did. But let me tell you this about Blood, where a lot of folks didn't even know. Blood is one of the most kindest fucking guys I've ever met. Like when I really wanted to put hands on the grind, Blood was the first one to go, like, they ain't gonna want to do nothing, bro. Like, why no? Because Blood's like 6'4". Okay, I'm 5'9". Blood's a big guy. And because the fact that people would see him sit down or whatever, they thought that like, oh, I can take this guy. And it was crazy. But Blood always took it as a stride. Like he was like, look, I'm going to have fun with it. And he always did. Where I was opposite. Like I honestly like took it really personal and it bothered me. Where with Blood, it didn't. I mean, he had thick skin from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like it was just there for him and stuff. And I think that's why he was able to say like, okay, guys, like let's stop here for a moment, because I got heated. Joe got heated, but Blood was the only one that was like, he knew already. Cause I mean, I remember him, I go, dude, you want to go on? Then he goes, if you want to go on, I'll go on. And that's why we went on. But I think Blood already knew this is not going to end well.
Yeah. Well, which brings me to this. So, you just said like Blood always backed you up, and we just felt like if 97 Rough and Blood called in together, like something was going to go down. That's just how we felt. You know what I mean?
We were a gang.
Man, Blood froze there. Just jump on back on Blood. I think he froze up there. I think Blood has to. I think that's why he's usually not on camera because his internet's not there.
No, he moved. He moved to a place where the internet is not as good as his other one. Yeah, he moved to a different place. That's why.
Hey, shout out to the chat, man. The Texan, Black and Brown, all that. Well, how's it going? Just K, Brotherhood Talk, all that. D Hodges, how you guys doing? All right. We got Blood back on here, man. You may have to take yourself off camera, Blood, so you use less bandwidth. And that way you could be on and stuff. But here's what I want to say, man. I think after that show, like we all like called each other. I don't know if you guys also called each other after the show, but we called each other. And we kind of all agreed that like it's on. Like, like we're okay. All right. So leave it in the ring, things that could boss us around. Like I swear to God, that's how I felt about it. I said, "Oh, it's on, bro. Okay, like we're gonna okay. We'll check the Block Talk rankings in the next couple of weeks. Like that's how we felt about it. You know what I mean? Because we would check it, like, hey, we'd be leaving in the ring this week. Like, you know what I mean? Like we and then we would see a little quiet when you guys would beat us, but we were always checking it. And we upped our game. I mean, Beeb went to extreme lengths to get like guests on shows, and you know what I mean. Hey, Beeb, you want to share the Mickey Ward story really quick?
Oh, when I got Mickey Ward, yeah, because when I called Mickey Ward up and they were telling me he told me I had to call Universal Studios to get permission. So of course I called Universal Studios, but do you think I'm going to get through to anyone? I mean, who the fuck am I, right? So then he asked me, he goes, "Did you call them?" And he goes, "Did you get permission?" I said, "Yeah, I called them. Yeah, they didn't have a problem with it. No, it's all set." I didn't fucking talk to anybody.
Mickey Ward told them, "Hey, it's because I don't know if I have permission."
That's because the Fighter movie was out at the time.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess he had to get permission to do interviews or something. I don't know. That was funny.
I want to ask Dave and Blood a question here. So I know last show you said you did a video and Blood told you, "Hey, keep doing your thing." He convinced you to keep going. One, where did that name come from? The There Will Be Blood Fight Show. Like, what inspired you to come up with that name? Was it just random?
No, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of Daniel Day-Lewis. Okay. I think the guy's a great actor. And then when he did that movie, There Will Be Blood, I thought it just fit perfect for the sport. The problem was, though, I had Kelly Swanson cuss me out about the name of the show. Because I was interviewing at that time a lot of the Golden Boy fighters. And she called me up just out of the blue. And I can't remember exactly what interview. I requested an interview. That's what it was. My bad. Requested an interview. And she called because she thought at that time, remember, boxing was really against the UFC. They didn't feel like they can, coexist. So she called me up and she said, "Who in the fuck do you think you are? There Will Be Blood to interview one of my fighters just because you've interviewed a bunch of little fighters," which she didn't realize that I had interviewed a bunch of Golden Boy fighters already. So that's why, honestly, I end up changing the name to Leave It in the Ring, because when I would go to events, people thought I was an MMA guy trying to cover boxing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, Blood, I know all of us had like a name for our show. That was like a thing back then. Like, what was the name of your show? Were you always just Blood Boxing? You didn't have a name for a show?
No, I was just always Blood Boxing. 97 Rough did come up with a name for a show that we were going to kick off one time. It was called The Chronicles of Blood, which was going to be, wasn't it called The Chronicles of Blood, I believe?
Yeah,
we were going to talk about boxing history and things like that. He was going to actually get me some legends to come in there. I'm just too bad that show never took off, man. That would have been a great show. I just think that those times, man, it was just different times, man. It was bad timing, but I'm hoping to work with you guys. I'm still here. Blood Boxing still here in 2020.
Actually, you're doing
to work with all of you guys who I started out with.
Yeah,
what's
actually,
that?
you're doing the stuff that we talked about it, because I don't know if you noticed, but so I got Blood Boxing up on this TV, I got DStyle there, and I got Joe Habib on that TV right there playing. So the stuff that we talked about, you're actually doing it now, which is great. And I always thought that was like your really strong, that brought out the best of you, because that you glowed when you would talk history. I never thought anybody could compete with you when it came to talking history.
Nobody.
Yeah, I love talking boxing history, man. But there's so many more legends to cover, and I'm looking forward to working. I have DStyle on my Salvador Sanchez documentary that's coming out, and I look forward to, I need some help with Bobby Chacon, man. 97 Rough and Beeb. I've always said I wanted to do more. I could remember Beeb from a long time ago before he came on. When I first maybe did my first or second video, Beeb commented on probably my second video. And I still have that comment there too from Beeb, man.
What I say?
So I've been knowing you guys over 10 years, you know?
Yeah. I was telling
years or something.
I was telling Ruff that Guard Your Grill and him and you were the first 3 channels that I used to watch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Guard Your Grill, yeah.
I used to love them.
Guard Your Grill.
Them
They
dudes
still
were
around, man.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're hilarious, those guys. I like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember they were like
Yes, sir.
just like pound for pound. They were like doing videos basically together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were cool, man.
So,
They
so
were cool.
I know Beeb already answered. Like, so you watched Garter Grills first, right?
I watched Guard Your Grill and Ruff and Blood pretty close together.
Okay. Hey, Blood, who was the first like that you remember that you ran into like someone doing boxing commentary? Who was the first you saw?
It was the first channel actually. It was Boxing for Real. These, you know, you get these 2 little skinny dorky guys. They come on and they talk a bunch of boxing, and I like listening to them, but they were still skinny dorky guys that I didn't think I would hang out with at the barbecue. So I wanted to come and do some years later, man, I talked to Omega. His name was Omega, and I talked to him, and he's a real cool guy, man. Yeah. And some years back, man, I did talk to him, and we talked about maybe doing something together, but I lost contact with him too, man. And then I watched another channel called Guard Your Grill Boxing, which was a channel from out of Pennsylvania, out of Philly. And then there was Pound for Pound Boxing, these 2 Puerto Rican guys that came around. They were about the only guys that were around at the time. Actually, I did a boxing video before Pound for Pound Boxing did, but they became a really big channel. And then you had the Islander, Stork. Yeah. His name was Stork.
Yep.
I'm not sure if you guys remember the Islander, but he had a whole lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He had that little but the marker thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes,
the first channel I ever ran into was Blood. Like I'm trying to look for a fight, and then I see this dude like counting his money. Like Blood had like a bunch of $100 bills and stuff. Like, what's this guy doing over here? He's counting his money. I don't know who you were talking about, but you were showing your money on camera, and you were going back.
I used to use props back then. I used a lot of props. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I remember that. Okay. And then that just made me think, because I actually ran into Boxing for Real, and I felt just like you. Like, I'm like, okay, I appreciate these guys talking boxing, but I like didn't agree with them like 90% of the time.
Right.
I was like, no, that's not true. Like, I was always like, and typing to them, like, well, why am I typing, bro? Just come on camera, see my own shit.
Yeah.
All right. Dave, who was the first channel you ran into here?
The first channel was Pound for Pound, the Puerto Rican kids.
Okay.
You know, and I remember that they were talking about Mexican fighters, and they were just basically saying Mexican fighters are like one-trick ponies. And that's what got me to go, what the fuck are these guys talking about? And do a video. But then Boxing for Real was the next one. Then like Blood, and then it just trickled down. Oh, no, it was Blood, and then Midnight Boxing. You know?
Oh, I remember him. Oh, wow. I remember him too. Shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And but I remember like Boxing for Real, like they got to that point where they were just talking smack. And the same thing, I did the same thing like you, Eric. I was like, you know, I started like, because I didn't, at that time, I was like a caveman. So I didn't still use a computer yet. So I was like typing like this.
Oh, shit.
And it took forever. So I was like, you know what? And my sister, because I would bitch about, I'm like, what the fuck are these guys talking? And I would go off. And my youngest, my sister Vanessa at the time was like, well, if you think you know so much fucking boxing, why don't you? And then, because that was her computer. So then she brought a camera, the whole works. So really, I wouldn't have done anything if it would have been my baby sister.
Oh, there you go. And then that was it. I swear I didn't plan like to start a channel. I just wanted to talk about a fight. I just wanted to talk about how Ricky Hatton got knocked out by Pacquiao. That's all I wanted to talk about. You know what I mean? And then before I know it, dude responds to my video. I got to respond to him, and I'm going back and forth. Before I know it, I'm a full-fledged boxing channel. You know, so and I enjoy doing it because look, people need to understand. I mean, there was a time where you couldn't talk to anybody. If 20 dudes could listen to me talk about boxing, that's 20 people. Like, you know what I mean? That's more than I could drive all over El Paso. I won't find 20 people to listen to me.
This is the only place you could find people that were like actually knew the sport and just were casual fans. You could talk to other people.
Yeah.
I remember, after work every day, going home and checking my subscriptions and saying, "Wow, who made videos today? I can't wait to watch these videos and stuff." It was kind of cool. It was something I look forward to.
It's not really a thing now, really.
No, I don't look forward to it anymore.
Not really.
We could have talked to the guy next door about Joe Calzaghe and people like that. We had to come to this platform to talk about certain fighters.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even the guys that weren't making videos, but they were commenting. Like they would comment and they would educate you. Like if you were wrong about something, they would come and say like, "Hey, bro." But it was never like, I don't know what point at time where it became disrespectful. Where a guy would say, "Oh, you're a fucking dumbass. You don't want to try."
I know.
Right?
I know when that happened.
See, I don't remember. I just remember when guys would come on, like Joe. What I was saying about Joe, like Joe would like comment, and then other guys would comment, but they would say like, "Dave, I like what you're saying, but," and that would to me was like great feedback, because then I would go back and look like, "Oh man, you're right. Like I overlooked that, or I didn't see that," or you were able to debate them in the comment, and it wasn't a who's got a bigger dick challenge or competition. Where nowadays, like you can't do that with anybody, any of these kids, because they need to be right. And I don't know where that came around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, because
it went sideways when fanboys came in, man.
Yeah.
Extreme Pacquiao fans. Extreme fans is what made it go sideways.
Well, you remember the forum?
Everything was going great.
Right. Well, Blood, you remember the forums? Like, even in the forums, no matter what forum it was, when there was like a big fight, like nobody was there. Like, there was only a couple of people talking boxing, and then De La Hoya fights Mayweather, and all of a sudden it's USA kicked Mexico's ass, and all these fanboys would come in.
Yes.
Right? Like, Mexican fighters suck, and like people that you never see, and it would be very active. Well, that's, the Mayweather and Pacquiao fanboys, made it very polarizing.
See, I didn't experience that because, like I said, I was more, I was a guy that just I didn't have a cell phone. Like, I didn't have any of that. I didn't get it till later. And then, like, I found, like, Max Boxing. Dude, I was like, holy shit. Like, I don't have to order or hunt down magazines. I could be on the internet and go.
Yeah, right.
To me, that was just like, holy shit. But I never got involved with the forums. Whereas other guys, and a lot of writers came from forums, like Gabriel Montoya, who used to co-host with me for years. That's where he got his start, was from forums, arguing with people and writing articles. And I just found that kind of foreign for me because I was like, fuck, dude, where was I when this was all going on?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the Pactard, Flomo, like the Mayweather, Pacquiao, a lot of them get mad when you use those terms, but those fan bases made things very polarizing and really started to oversaturate, the boxing talk, where that's where it was all about, and it was lucrative because if you were a Pactard channel, like you grew like fast. If you told Pactards what they wanted to hear, you grew fast. You know what I mean? Like if you were a hardcore Mayweather fan, hey, it was lucrative to do it, because it got you more subscriptions. It would just keep it real. Like nobody wanted to talk about Ivan Calderon. Like, oh, Ivan Calderon's going to fight this weekend. Ain't nobody care about that. Hardcore fans cared about it, but everybody wanted to hear about Mayweather, Pacquiao. And I feel like a lot of those fans are still around, but those guys are kind of like Pacquiao's past his prime, Mayweather's gone, but a lot of them are still like around. You know what I mean? Masking themselves as boxing fans, but you could tell their knowledge is very limited. You could tell they don't know a lot about boxing. just by listening to them talk. Some of the points they make no damn sense, and they're ignorant to the fact that they sound so ignorant. Blood. What do you remember about the Pactards, bro? Like, when did you notice him really, really growing? And I remember they used to attack you a lot. A lot of them would say a lot of racist shit on your comment section too.
Yeah. It started after the Oscar De La Hoya fight, because I predicted Oscar De La Hoya to win, and so did several other people. They could sit and say that they didn't, but I predicted him to win because Pacquiao was moving up a couple of weight classes. So they came by and they wanted to let me know that, I was wrong, and they was sarcastic with it. They added a couple of extra things, like calling me out my name and saying racist things, and it started there. And I knew it was going to end up there because boxing was built off of race. It was built off of color lines and all of that type of stuff back in the era of Jack Johnson and Jeffries and Langford and Peter Jackson, when they was building up the color lines. If you go back and you look at the boxing media from decade to decade, it always went back to nationality, race, culture, all those different things. Even if it doesn't go with nationality, it'll go with culture, it'll go with race. So I knew it was eventually going to get there, but the way they did it was very disrespectful. And I just decided that, hey, I'm going to answer them and have a little bit of fun with it. So I actually would have fun responding to the trolls, whereas I think 97, me and you, DStyle, we'll respond to the trolls. 97 Rough and Beeb was more mature in their approach. They wouldn't really mess with the trolls too much. Even though they did go, don't forget that I broke up a fight between y'all now, okay? So I did break up a fight one time. But for the most part, they didn't want to get involved in that kind of stuff. Me and DStyle would get involved in it and have a little bit of fun with it every now and then. And, it got out of hand at times. But, hey, and we lost channels because of it, too. We got channels suspended and things like that. It got a little bit out of hand, but we were always going to answer the call. It's just that way. That's just the way it is.
The whole thing with Roy Jones and Mike Tyson coming back. I don't know. I think me and Joe, man, we should make a comeback and get back in there. Just do one more.
Right.
But can we get paid? Can we get paid this time?
Hey, Joe, I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
So, what was up with the switch sport, bro? Like everyone was everyone gets muted. You get muted.
That was a free for all. That switchboard. That was my first time operating a switchboard. I just unmuted everybody. I was getting ready to go to people, but everyone else just kept talking and stuff. So that was just a mess. That wasn't one of my better days. After that show, I said, remember I told you, I said, we got to do better than this. And that's what kind of lit a fire under my ass after that show, because you can't go on having shows like that continuously. People aren't going to take it seriously.
Yeah, it was the switchboard wasn't handled well, but what are you going to do? There was some internal. I do want to do a Rope-A-Dope radio reunion, but there was like an internal situation nobody knows about. This is exclusive. This has never been put out there. Okay, so that first show, I had a legitimate reason why I couldn't make it on time. You know what I mean? The Pacquiao Cotto fight. Like, the whole thing is my idea, right, to do the post-fight show. But then at the same time, I want to watch the fight with the familia. You know what I mean? I want to watch the fight with the family, and I want to stay there, listen to the post-fight, have a beer or two, and then just call in. Just walk outside and call in and stuff, because I thought I was the star of the show or something, right? Joe Beeb let it go that one time. And then there was another fight, I did the same thing. And another fight, same thing. And then Joe calls me, and he's like, "Yo, if we're doing a show, are you gonna host it, or are you gonna like go on the switchboard and do? You know what I mean? It's your fucking idea." I don't know if he said fucking, but
I didn't say fucking.
I got mad. I told him off. I told him, "Well, what the fuck, Joe? It's my idea. If I want to come in late." I cussed him out on the phone, and I told him to fuck off. How about you go fuck off? And I said some mean shit, and then I hung up. I remember I went to buy my lunch. I bought my lunch.
Called me back 5 minutes later.
I called back 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, you have a point. All right, I gotta go.
Then I start gassing up. Then I start gassing up. He goes, I'm not trying to get on you. I mean, I'm just letting you know how valuable you are to the show. We really need you. Trying to make him feel good and shit.
Yeah. So nothing was all.
Yeah.
You reflect back, and I honestly thought I could just call him whenever I wanted to. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you this, because a lot of folks thought that I'm this ball-bearing motherfucker. A lot of guys thought that Dave had to have his way. Me and Blood had never had that, right? Blood, or am I wrong? We've never had.
No, you're right.
A feud like that. I always went to him and said, "Hey, man, what do you think? What do you think we should do?" And it was always, it came down with anybody, even like Strike Heart. And I'll tell you why Strike Heart left right now. But I never tried to try anybody. I never try to force anybody to do things that they never wanted to do, and I respected their opinion and their decision.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why did Strike Heart leave?
So
exclusive.
Gabriel Montoya at the time. Look, what I wanted to do with leaving the ring, when everybody was like, okay, let me at the time, was Strike Heart, 916 Chris were the only ones left. It was me, and then we had interviewed. I met Gabriel, and me and Gabriel just hit it off, So I brought Gabriel on, and at the time there was another guy named Art that was behind the scenes that was helping out with the graphics. I asked all the guys, "Hey, what do you guys think about me bringing Gabriel Montoya as a permanent, co-host?" Everybody was down with it, but in reality, they weren't down with it, So Strike Heart and Gabriel got into it. And it was like they kind of draw the line, a line in the sand for me. They're like, either it's me or him. And I didn't want to, and I told them both, I'm not doing that. It was Strike Heart that drew that line and decided I'm not coming on ever again. And he didn't. And I respect him, man, because he stood his ground. He said, I'm not coming on if he's still on. For whatever reason, they had their clash, but I was like, you guys are not going to do this to me. You're just not going to do it to me. I'm not going to do that. Either you're going to show up or I'm going to do the show by myself. Gabriel showed up. Strike Heart did it. And I reached out to Strike Heart. I reached out to him, man. I was like, hey, brother. And he never responded, And it was really, honestly, Strike Heart was a good friend. Love the guy. I have nothing bad to say about the guy. He's great fucking dude, man. But his pride felt it was bigger. For some reason, his pride, he felt like I hit his pride really bad. And I could understand that.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, well, I mean, it did, leaving the ring. I mean, I do remember, it started with all YouTubers. You had Blood, you had 916 Chris, Strike Hearts, Budasai, as you mentioned. And then before you knew it, I remember when we were still at Rope-A-Dope, we didn't notice, man, that whole crew's gone. It's Dave and Montoya now, Yeah. It's a totally different show now. It's not even like any competition we had, it kind of died there. You know what I mean?
I don't know if it died there. I mean, I don't know why I don't know why you guys would look at like that. I mean, look, I think this is what happened. I had an idea in my head. Mm-hmm. And the idea in the beginning was I wanted all the YouTubers to do things. Okay. But I had to respect everybody else's opinion and what their vision was. When I brought on Gabriel Montoya, it was because I wanted somebody at that. And you got to remember this, the credibility of having a writer that was in the mix of things was huge. Okay. And that's what I was looking for, because there was only so much that as a YouTube guy, you can push out or make it believable, And here I had a guy that was doing this. Here's the thing, okay? A lot of folks give Montoya a lot of credit for PDs, which they should. But I was the first guy that brought on Victor Conte. I was the first guy that was pointing on a lot of shit about PEDs. But I won't get that. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm a YouTube guy. So I needed a guy that had that credibility as a writer. Whereas now you don't need that, to tell you the truth. You know, it's a completely different ball game. And that's why I did it. And I understand that's why a lot of people felt like I slapped him. Like, you forgot his roots. But I never did. Mm-hmm. I was just, like I said, I was targeted by a lot of folks because they never took the time to go, Dave, what are you doing? Or, hey, man, blah, blah, blah. Because nobody wanted to work with me because they said, oh, he's number one. Who the fuck said? I mean, how do you know I was number one? How come I was labeled as number one?
Yeah.
What numbers was anybody getting? This was all like, you know, there's nothing that you could have seen that said I was number one, but I was labeled as number one.
Yeah, I think what I meant to say was, like, I'm not saying leaving the ring died. I mean, any built-in rivalry we had with leaving the ring, just kind of by itself faded away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the original show in a sense. You know what I mean? That's kind of how, like,
yeah, it was.
It just, you know, before you knew it, I was talking to you like nothing ever happened. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Like, I just think that's how it went. I do want to ask this because I know you mentioned about, you know, you mentioned Ness' name last week, and you said that I don't think you said beef or something, but you said like something like there was a continuation, and maybe there was a misunderstanding that could be cleared up here. That you felt that there was still like a rift with you and Beeb. I want you two to kind of touch on that, like, when you went with the boxing voice.
Oh yeah. I think that, you know, what's his name, Ness. You know, I that's one guy. I just think he's a fucking piece of shit. You know, I mean, you know, the guy. First off, the guy's a rat. You know. I don't have any respect for anybody that's a fucking rat when it comes from the streets. I mean, I'm a street guy, you know. I've never ratted on anybody, and that's not who I am. You know what I mean? And I think the guy played some folks to come at me, and it wasn't right. You know, he had that, like, Robert the Genius, who asked Gabriel Montoya to come on and was calling him a faggot and all this stuff, and then later on decided to call me and apologize. But at the same time, he apologized by telling me, but I'm gunning to beat you because you're number one. And I go back again, like, who in the fuck said? I mean, when did anybody hear that from me that I was claiming I was number one?
Right.
And I just found it weird. And then they were putting shit when I did the app, like the Google app and the iPhone app, which it was a tryout. It was nothing like I was trying to, like, you know, because at that time nobody was doing apps yet, and I was doing it.
Okay.
There was people talking shit about it, and I called them. And of course, he threw Joe Habib and he threw this other guy that was on there. And I told Nest, why can't you fucking be a man, bro, and take the, like, if my guys went and said something, I'm gonna take the responsibility. You know, so to this day, I mean, to this day, I don't like the guy.
I'll tell you what happened that really kind of threw things off the edge with the whole situation. When you did that show with Ishe Smith and Peter Quillen, he did the identical show. He copied it. And then Gabe kind of called him out on it. And I told him the same thing. I said, you know, you're doing the same thing they did. It's identical. I mean, it's one thing, you know, if you have similarities, everyone's going to interview the same people. But you intentionally brought them both on so they could fight, just like they fought when they were on your show. And right. I think that, and he was another guy, always worrying about being first. And I always told DStyle this, I told Ness this. It's not about being first, it's about being the best. No one cares about who did something first. People care about who's doing it the best.
Yeah.
And I always used to tell him that because he was another guy. Oh, you know, we got to be. And the ironic thing about it was, he was the guy that called me up and told me, Beeb, I need your help. I want you to come on, blah, 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 blah. I always called on to your show. And he would go and tell people, I got into this because I used to watch other podcasts and listen to other podcasts, and I always thought that I could do it better. So you weren't first, and it doesn't matter if you were or you weren't. Just do your own thing. Be the best you could be. Try to put out the best material you could put out. But, he was just very hell-bent on being first and trying to be different. Now, you can't be different because you're doing something someone else already did. How can you be different doing that? So
the guy used to call in my show. He texts me. I gave him my number. I helped him out. I've helped out a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those. Look, I get it. If that's all you got in life, and that's all he has in life,
he's a very competitive person to the point
everybody's
where
competitive. But let me tell you this. Like yourself, you got a career. Everybody here in this panel's got a career. This guy depends on what's coming in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what it depends. Either he's ratting somebody out to get his money, or he's depending on who's coming on the show.
Well, Dave, there's an old saying, Dave. You can't subtract from others to add to yourself.
No. And
some people, when they always think by trying to make themselves better, they got to bring someone else down or put someone else down. And that was another thing I used to tell him. To this day, I don't have a problem with the guy. We had a falling out because it was business. It was strictly business. People always try to get me, like they go in my chat, they try to get me to say bad things about him, to go back and forth and fight with the dude. I'll be honest with you. I respect his work ethic because the guy would drive 5 miles to cover an event. We'd be up, both of us, working on the website sometimes to 4 a.m. He puts in a lot of work. Now, there's a lot of things about him I don't like.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I can't respect his work ethic.
I don't like him. So
I can't knock his hustle. And I know you don't like him. And that's fine. You have every right to not like him if that's how you feel.
Yeah.
He's not someone that I could confide in. He's not someone that I could do business with. But I do respect him to a degree. I have to admit that. I respect
I would respect him, but
he has I'll give him credit, like he has asked questions that other reporters don't ask.
I don't like his I told him this several times. I said I don't like your podcast, but I like some of your interviews. I think you do some decent.
I don't listen to any of this stuff, and I'll go again. And
I can't watch the podcast, but I can listen to the interviews.
Right. I don't listen to that, and I see him be destroyed. People send me stuff that he's been destroyed in his interviews. But this is what I'll say. I'm old school. If you're a rat, I got nothing good. If I have a chance, I'll do exactly what I do to every rat. I'll fucking squash you. It's just it. That's just me. But I'm old school. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's how 97 feels. Hey, I want to dive into this. There was a fight announced today. This is literally throwback. So let's throw it back to let's go back to the late 90s, bro, early 2000s. Roy Jones Jr. is going to have a match with Mike Tyson. And people are excited about it. I'm not saying, look, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to watch it. Look, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm not going to watch that. I'm going to watch the fight. You know what I mean? There's no way I'm not going to watch it. Definitely going to watch it. Blood, how do you feel about this fight being announced, man? Roy Jones, Mike Tyson. Who'd you got? You there, Blood?
Blood's thinking about it right now.
Because Roy Jones was one of those fighters who relied on his physical gifts. And when he lost the step, he didn't have it anymore. Okay. And not only that, he don't have the punch resistance that he had in the 1990s. Now, keep in mind, because the fight is in Los Angeles, there will be headgear. I'm not sure how much that's going to help Roy Jones, because And now to get in there against a power puncher like Mike Tyson and not have the reflexes that he once had left away from those punches. So at this age, I would favor Tyson. I'm not sure how much of a killer instinct these fighters. Kellerman asked Mike Tyson about the day earlier. Will this be more of an event, exhibition, or will this actually be Mike Tyson's knockout? Mike Tyson stated that he would be going for it. It's going to be a little bit harder. And once ago, I favored Mike Tyson to beat Roy Jones. What would happen in 2002? I still would have eventually catch Roy Jones. Something. And Johnson, they hit him with something, and he was out cold. So I could only imagine if Mike Tyson would have hit clean, he would have been on there. The things that you have allegedly in which older guys have a chance to take advantage of social media. Okay, so if they're still good enough to get past the neutral exam, physical, whatever it takes to draw income to themselves and make income, I say I'm all about it, man. I would love to see these guys mix it up in these legend tours. I would say invite guys like Michael Nunn there, Reggie Johnson, whoever wants to get involved. There should be some money because these young fighters are not stepping up anyway. I know we have a pay-per-view event coming up with the Charlo brothers, which is not pay-per-view worthy in my opinion. But the younger fighters, younger Charlo is unifying, but there's not enough of these fights. These fights are too far and in between, okay? So for the come back and bring some excitement, and like Mike Tyson said, some of these guys have larger followings than these younger guys because these guys don't want to step up.
Yo, Blood, you're cutting off a little bit there. Try turning off the camera so you
really competitive shit, and put Roy just the footwork. I'm sorry, man. Okay, let me turn the camera off here.
Yeah, that way.
Okay. I'm not sure where I was at last. Can you hear me better, DStyle?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, love it. Yeah,
much better, much better.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was saying, basically, I like the fact that the older guys get to go in there and prove themselves. And I mean, some of these guys still have it; they're in great shape. But the problem is that because Roy Jones doesn't have the punch resistance he once had, he doesn't have the reflexes. He don't let his hands go as much as he used to let them go. Because he doesn't have that beard that a James Toney would have, Evander Holyfield, or some of the other fighters from that era. Roy Jones totally relied on his ability. He did things in the ring that wasn't right. That wasn't the right thing to do. Some people will compare him to a Salvador Sanchez, but a Salvador Sanchez, Roy Jones compared himself to Salvador Sanchez. But Sanchez was more fundamentally sound than Roy Jones, who did so many things that was against the rules. Sanchez did things against the rules, fundamental part of the sweet science, which Roy Jones, I know that he's mastered that too because he's training other fighters, but his bread and butter was what he had physically over his opponents, man. But I like it, man. I'm all for it. If I have to pay pay-per-view, I'll pay it. So I'm happy. I'm happy about that.
All right. And Ruff, I know you got to go shortly. Quick thoughts on the fight.
I'm not for it. To me, it's a night of whose PDs are better than each other. They're not going to be testing. I just don't see why it has to happen, to tell you the truth. I mean, look, Roy Jones has got a glass jaw now. What's the purpose? Last time we saw him, he was face down. If Mike decides to have an episode, Mike can do some serious damage. Okay? And I go back again. I mean, a year ago, he looked flabby. he's looking cut up now, Mike Tyson. And I'll go back again. It's whose PEDs are going to be better that night. Does Mike really need that money? No. I mean, come on, man. I mean, he doesn't need that money. Roy needs that money, but not Mike. Mike doesn't need that money. He's doing all kinds of different stuff. I don't know, man. Listen, if it was going to be such a great card and they had so much confidence in that card, why are they talking about a YouTuber being part of that card? And then Jack, what's that one fighter's name that's under 68 pounder? Bodak Jack is talking about being part of that card. You know what? As much as I love my old school fighters, I just wish that they would just hang it up and let it go. Now, exhibition, cool, but they're not going to have headgear. At what point do we just go? If something happens to Roy Jones, which he shouldn't be in there anymore, not even fucking around anymore, because it only takes one hit to permanently just damage the guy. So we're all for that. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not. I wouldn't pay for this. I just wouldn't, and I'm not going to pay for it. That's my opinion.
All right, you're going to roll out, bro?
No, I'll stay off a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
Joe Beeb, what do you think, man? Mike Tyson, Roy Jones. What's your honest take on this fight?
Well, it depends. If it's an exhibition, it depends if they're going to go really hard at each other or if they're just going to kind of move around. I mean,
Creed Drago was an exhibition. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there.
Remember that video I was telling you about? I don't know if I was talking to you and Eric about it on the Ringside Reporter podcast when they were having Roy Jones. He was with a chiropractor, and he was sitting there talking to the chiropractor, telling him all the injuries that he had over the course of his career. Tore like a bicep tendon, the distal tendon. That's this one right here. And he tore his bicep tendon here. Tore another one here. Broke his wrist. Had some scopes on his knee. You know, when people, and even myself, I just assumed that, you know, his reflexes dulled or whatever, but maybe his body just broke down on him too. And, you know, the guy suffered a lot of injuries. So how, you know, as I said before, it's one thing about being conditioned, and it's another thing being healthy. Conditioned means you're conditioned to do a task or an event, but his body is not healthy. He is not healthy. I don't think that he's made to be hit anymore. No one's made to be hit, but he's especially made to not be hit right now. So my only concern is how hard are they really going to go at each other? If this turns into a real fight, Tyson's got like 20, 25 pounds on the guy. He's much bigger than him. He's a much harder puncher. And probably at this point, he may even be faster than him. I don't know. Speed's comparable. So what does Roy Jones have on Tyson? What can he bring to the table if this was a real fight? I stress that point, if this is a real fight. Now, if this is just an exhibition, they go in there and move around and just try to put on a show, then who knows? It could be fun. But if this turns into a real fight, you have to worry about Roy Jones here.
Well, I mean, what I'm being told, there's not going to be any headgear.
Okay.
That's not going to be there.
What size gloves? Is it going to be 10-ounce gloves or?
I mean, no, it's going to be. I mean, if you're looking at if it's going to,
might be 6, might be 16,
yeah,
right?
It's gonna be loaded gloves. Like with,
right.
But you know, Mike Tyson. The thing about Mike Tyson too is he's been stopped, but he's never been knocked out like cold. Roy's been knocked out cold. He's been separated from his senses. Like that brainstem moved from the friggin' cerebellum, and he just short-circuited. Mike's got that big 19, 20-inch neck. Even though he got stopped, he got beaten to submission, basically. You know what I mean? He never really was put out.
Yeah, you know what would make it worth, though, Joe? You know what would make it worth the pay-per-view buy is if Roy lands a beautiful left hook to the gut of Mike Tyson, and all you saw was clouds of smoke of marijuana just fly out of his mouth. That'd be worth it for me. Okay,
but
I would pay for that. But other than that, I mean,
if I bought Roy Jones versus Bobby Gunn on pay-per-view, then I'm definitely going to buy this. I mean, I'm a degenerate. I buy everything. If two If there's two pigeons on the street fighting over a piece of bread, I'm gonna watch it.
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm an old soul, but I don't.
But I do worry about Roy Jones, though. I really do.
Yeah,
I do too. Look, man. The way I feel about it is, I'm going to watch it. So why am I going to? I'm not going to sit here and tell people I'm not going to see it. My issue is like I don't think it's not as big of a story as the Showtime fights that were announced. I think the Showtime fights are better, bro. I think like I'm more excited about that than Tyson versus Jones in an 8-round exhibition fight. But I feel like most fans are like the opposite. Like they got more excited about this. This was a juicier story and bigger news than the Showtime thing. I think Blood's more excited about Tyson Jones.
I'm more excited about Tyson Jones. Well, let me stop. I mean, those are some good fights with them Charlos. You got Rosario in a unification. You got Derevyanchenko. That's some pretty good fights. That's some fire right there. So I'm not going to say I'm more excited. But I'm not paying pay-per-view, though. I'm not paying pay-per-view for that. I'll pay pay-per-view for Charlo versus Canelo Alvarez.
Okay. Well, you know, we're boxing. We'll find a way to watch it anyway.
Well, here's the thing. Like, here's my problem. And I saw this yesterday with the Showtime boxing schedule. I saw people bitching about Tank and Luis Santa Cruz as pay-per-view and the Charles on pay-per-view. But then I see a bunch of folks this is media going like, well, this is great for boxing. You know, Mike Tyson and I'm like, dude, I know we live in bizarre world right now. But is it that bad?
But Mike Tyson, you could argue, is still the most popular heavyweight in the world.
Hey, is it going to do 1 million buys, guys?
I think it will. And there's no.
Is it pay-per-view?
Now. But again,
pay-per-view won't be $74.99.
No, it'll probably be like $40.
Well, look, no one can go to people still can.
I don't know about that. You're gonna have a YouTuber on there that's asking for a certain demand of money. It's gonna make it a higher price.
Look, at the end of the day, man, let me tell you something. The bars are closed in a lot of places, okay? And even if they're open, the capacity is lowered. So who's gonna pay for a boxing paper at a bar? Okay, if the capacity is lower, that's number one. Number two, less people are going to other people's houses. You know what I mean?
So that doesn't matter. You know, bro. Let me tell you this. But the UFC's been doing it. Why are we saying that? Like when I see boxing fans say that, then why is the UFC able and capable of doing pay-per-view that they're buying it?
No, but that's my point. My point is less people can go to other people's houses. So instead of having 10 people for one pay-per-view, you have 10 pay-per-views. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's helping them with the pay-per-view market, if we're honest. Like I think Lomachenko versus Teofimo Lopez, if that's on pay-per-view, I think that's going to do good numbers. You know?
I think, look, I know Blood doesn't like the Derevyanchenko and Charlos. Dude, I love that. I'll pay for it. Because I think the double header of both those kids going in, those are Rosario versus Charlo versus Derevyanchenko. Those are great fights.
I like it a lot.
I love it. You know, now you can have an argument about Tank and Santa Cruz. Okay,
I don't even hate that fight. I like that fight too.
Yeah. Now I hear a lot of guys go, but what about the undercard? Well, give me the past 10 years a good undercard on a pay-per-view fight. It doesn't work like that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it really doesn't. So you got to take what they're going to give us. And I mean, that's what we got. That's just what we have right now. I don't see UFC fans going, well, you know, so-and-so is going to fight, but the undercard sucks or this and this and that. What they're doing is that they're so satisfied. Let me take it. I'm going to get it. And then what they do after, they're bitching about it.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, because they're consumers.
Man, I think the pay-per-view market is there, you know, and the fact that boxing is not taking advantage of it, you know, I think they will now that they're seeing what the UFC is doing.
I think you made a great point too, because since now there's not going to be a live gate. So now that could even enhance the pay-per-view as well, because people can't go to fights anymore. So these people that can't go are going to have to find another avenue to watch the fights.
Mm-hmm. Joe, it's going to go back to pay-per-view. OTT is dead. It's going to be dead. What schedule has the Zone done?
I know.
They're going to have Virgil Ortiz, bro, tomorrow.
We've been saying this for the last 2 years, DStyle, that we're skeptical about the Zone and ESPN Plus and all. Well, ESPN Plus will be fine because they show other sports, but I'm saying the Zone, they have a rough road ahead of them.
Right, but even ESPN Plus, I mean, the boxing's not even there. I mean, they're showing it on ESPN, and I'm like, what's the purpose of ESPN Plus? You know what I mean? But the Zone, even with Virgil Ortiz, have you seen their schedule? The only one that I think is going to be good is what I'm excited about is White and Povetkin and Taylor and Person. That's a great fight.
Those are good fights.
I don't see anything else. They're not rolling anything out right now, in my opinion.
They go through some really dead spots in the schedule. They have some really dead spots in their schedule. They'll have like two or three good fights all year, and the rest of the schedule is kind of iffy.
So I want to dive into something here, since I have all four of you on.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll make it the last topic here, but I want to just dive in, like literally, like the highest dive, and just dive in, like somersault, dive in. You know what I mean? Let's dive in. Fury Wilder 3. All right. How do you guys feel about Glovegate, and how do you think that their fight's going to go? All right. Blood, you there? Can Blood hear me? Well, we'll wait on Blood, but let's start with you, Beeb. Go. How do you feel about that, man?
I have a hard time talking about Glovegate with a straight face, because I just think it's laughable, and I think a lot of people that are talking about it are just talking about it because they're just trying to make controversy so they can get views for their channel. That's just how I feel. I think the people that actually talk about it and try to make you think they believe it don't even really believe it themselves. And I've said that right from the beginning. I think it's just a way to stir up controversy. It's a clickbait title. When you're sitting there making videos about Glovegate 5 months after the fight, 6 months after the fight, then you really ain't got much to talk about. You don't really have an extensive knowledge of the sport of boxing if you have to sit there and make 20 Glovegate videos and put clickbait titles just so you can make money. But again, like a lot of these channels, they're doing it full time now. So now they have to come up with clickbait titles so they can pay their bills. And that's the great. There was a time when I kind of wanted to. It crossed my mind that maybe it'd be fun to do this full time. But the way the business is, it's so volatile, and it's just the people in the business, the way they the boxing treats its journalists, and it just the whole setup of the sport. It's just a hard business to really succeed in unless you really get in.
Unless you're part of the good old boy club.
Yeah, you have to get in with a really big network, because
even then. I mean,
if you're trying to do this full time, no one's going to do you any favors. No, there's no loyalty. There's no loyalty with promoters. There's no loyalty with the boxers. You think there's going to be loyalty with journalists?
Look, I feel like, and this goes for both new media and old media. Okay, and I know that's how that's labeled. There's a lot of gray area between all that, by the way. That's why but I see both say things that just end up not being true. Well, they're like flat out things that are like my sources said this, and then
it goes back to the old thing of trying to be first instead of you could say what you want about Gabriel Montoya, but one thing about Gabe was he was a good researcher, and he was diligent, and I always respected. I wasn't a big PED topic guy either. That wasn't my hot button issue. I didn't really care about the topic, but I respected how passionate he was about it, to the point where he really did research. He would get 3, 4 sources, and he would take his time. It's like
he wasn't limited to that though. That's just another thing. He just wasn't limited. Like you could call in and ask him about a fight, and he knew, like off the top of his head, like he could debate you, and he didn't have like things in front of him. You know, a lot of folks didn't appreciate that. I mean, he's a throwback with us. This guy came from that era of you needing to know what you're talking about to debate with folks because they were going to call you out on it.
Yeah, he could be combative at times. But that's fine. That's just who he was. But I always respected another guy. I respect his work ethic because he would sit there and do the research and get multiple sources, not just one. Well, he didn't care about being first. He wanted to get it right. It's like it's like you can buy a can of baked beans, or you could sit there and make the baked beans Boston style on the stove for 6 hours. Which one's going to taste better? The one that you took your time with and you cooked from scratch instead of trying to just get something out there so fast. Yeah. The quality isn't there. So everyone is just looking for clickbait right now. You know, and these are reputable sites clickbaiting.
Yeah, well, and that's my point, Beeb. So, like, I see old media and new media put shit out, and it ends up not being true, like, a lot of times. Like, you know, like in baseball, like, you don't expect the batter to never strike out. You know, it happens, even to the best, you know, baseball players. You know what I mean? Like Alex Rodriguez led the league in RBIs, but he got struck out, okay? But your batting average should be pretty good, and some of these guys have a horrible batting average when they're talking about their sources. Like they're wrong. That they're like airball wrong.
But what is a source? A source can be anything. You could be in a gym one day, and the guy that grabs the coffee for the fighter in a camp, he could say something to you. Technically, that's a source. How reputable is that source?
Absolutely, Pete. But that's why I'm talking about the batting average, right? If he's right 9 out of 10 times when he says something, right? Like, hey guys, my sources say this, and 9 out of 10 times he's right. That's a pretty good batting average. Some of these dudes don't even got 4 out of 10 times. Sometimes they're right every blue moon, okay? But they're full, like, and this is old media, new media.
But let me ask you a question. What's the difference between old media and new media?
There really isn't a difference. But
what do they do?
You know why I'm labeling it that way.
They label themselves. They label themselves as new media. But what are they doing that's so revolutionary that old media hasn't done already? Once again,
not a damn thing. They're not doing nothing different. They're the same as the old media. What they
100%.
Thing else Glovegate was some of the biggest bullshit that I ever heard. That's why I got involved in the conversation, just so I could tell people how much bullshit it was. Okay, a lot of these guys, they get one little interview with a fighter and they think that they're the fucking cream of the crop, that they're the world. And then they go off and start lying to a bunch of people and making it look like their connection is more secure than what it is. Well, hey, you know, I got a connection. I could talk to him when I want. I could talk to the champion and all that stupid shit that nobody care about because y'all never come with no breaking news anyway. Ain't nobody who ever said they got breaking news ever had no fucking breaking news. And when it comes to fighting and schedule fights and events in boxing, I'm going to go with the traditional boxing websites first. I'm not going with any YouTube pages because all of these guys are clickbaity type guys who make up a whole bunch of stuff. And on top of that, they don't know their fucking boxing. You ask them who Red Lopez is, or back in the day. They don't know who these guys. They don't even know Terry Norris and Meldrick Taylor, Julio Cesar Chavez. Ask them 5 people who Julio Cesar Chavez fight. They wouldn't even be able to tell you. And most of them all think that either Floyd Mayweather's the greatest, the TBE, and you know, they all of these guys follow the same handbook, man. Okay, and it's about making money. It's about getting exclusives. It's about themselves. It's about their channels. And they're doing no justice for the sport. And they did no justice for Deontay Wilder with this Glovegate shit. Okay, because all it did is showed how pussy these people are. Okay, they're pussy because they're not used to their favorite fighters losing the fight because most of these guys came in off the back of Floyd Mayweather, who retired undefeated, and then two guys had not lost yet. So when Wilder finally did lose, some guy named Young Pharaoh came along, who's not even a boxing fan, and gave these guys all their talking points. Okay, they had nothing to say about until after some non-boxing fan came around and looked at a couple of slides and then they took that and they took it and made it into more than what it needed to be, and started looking at frames of every glove and stuff. You know, in my opinion, Tyson Fury didn't cheat. Now after listening to them, at first I thought maybe he did cheat a little bit, but after listening to the defender, the Wilder Defense Committee, after listening to them, I'm convinced now that Tyson Fury won the fight clean, 100%. And I hope Wilder's ready for the next fight too, because from what I heard, he fired on Mark. I heard he got a new trainer. You know, I just don't know what it's going to take for him to beat somebody like Tyson Fury. All I know is they better look at them damn gloves next time and stop making all these lame ass excuses, because only pussies do that. Only pussy boys do that.
If you're gonna call Tyson Fury a cheater, then you're calling the legendary Kronk cheaters as well.
In what world? Just answer me this, anyone on this panel. In what world can you have a glove half hanging off your wrist and punch effectively with it? Imagine hitting a heavy bag or with your glove halfway off. How can you generate power like that? How could you throw a straight punch without your glove flopping over? Like, how is that, you know, an advantage to have your glove half hanging off? In what world is that possible?
It's not an advantage. Plus, I don't think it was half. I think it's ridiculous to say that it was there, because if you ever put on a pair or even looked with your eyes at 10-ounce gloves, or there were some people that did fantastic demonstrations where they put on not the sparring gloves that young Pharaoh was putting on, okay, but actual 10-ounce gloves, horsehair, okay, hybrid gloves like the ones Tyson Fury wore. Okay, those dudes' hands are nowhere near as big as Tyson Fury's, and you could see a big ball, okay, in the wrist area. It's like extremely obvious, bro. Right. It's laughable to think that. Okay, and there's side-by-side pictures of the palm of Fury. You had a channel out here, dude. Okay, and it's a big boxing channel with over 100 subscribers, saying that he actually said that you're not supposed to see the palm. Okay, it's supposed to be all wrapped up. Well, that's not even true.
That's not true.
If you're saying that, you sound like this is why it's important to know your shit, because that's the dumbest thing you could possibly say.
Look,
go ahead.
I had Ernesto Gabion, who's been with Everlasting Gloves for 12 years, come on the show and explain to us how the glove is made. You know, and even like himself, he said, look, it's just crazy to think this would happen. And like the whole Margarito thing, we covered that like extensively. And even they couldn't even prove it, that he tampered the gloves. Like, yeah, it was a foreign substance, but they couldn't even say what was in there. Like the whole plaster of Paris, they couldn't even figure it out, you know? Because of the fact is that, you know what? Sometimes a hand wrap can be brought from sparring that they don't want. They're too lazy to wrap your hand, that they'll just use that same wrap and put it back on your hand. You know, so going back with Tyson Fury, I just find it crazy that most of these guys that are talking about this have never bothered to go, hey, man, let me get somebody that's an expert with gloves that's been there in numerous fights. I had a guy that called me and goes, Ernie's wrong because he only talked about Vegas, not about Los Angeles. Ernie's been fucking Los Angeles, Vegas, New York, you name it, and major fights. And then for him to talk about the original glove gate comes from Floyd Mayweather and Madonna. That's the original glove gate conspiracy. That tells you everything, that he was there in the mix. And I asked the guy, I told the guy that was commenting, I said, I threw out Ernie's credentials and I said, but I'd love to speak to you if you can tell me what commission you're from and what glove company you work for, so that we can have you on and you can tell us your theory. You know what he said? That's great sarcasm, Dave. It's not sarcasm.
But Dave, like I get what you're saying, but here's the reality, okay? Telling the people that are bringing this out that commissions, people of authority, they think that's part of the conspiracy. You know what I mean?
I've had fans say,
no, I get it, but my thing is that's not an effective. It's effective to like it is effective, but that's not gonna like to people that are believing the conspiracy. That's not gonna hit home. What's gonna hit home is the fact that they have a glove selection meeting and Wilder's team is there. Okay, so even if you think the commission's corrupt, they're there. Okay. Well, Diaz was there when they wrap the hands. They look at the gloves when they're there. Like the Wilder's team was there.
But now they're saying JD's was in on it. What motive would he have to be in on it? Why would he want Deontay Wilder to lose? Makes no sense.
Why wouldn't he want to be the coach of the heavyweight champion of the world?
It's just bullshit excuses, man. That's all they got.
Yeah.
You know,
it just bullshit excuses, man.
If he's in on it, why is he still in Team Wilder?
Look at
well, like Blood said in the beginning, like Blood said, look. You don't want to separate racism with boxing, but it's always been there. People get trapped in it. It's a very tribal thing. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to go against. If you're black, if you don't want to go against black. If you're Mexican, you don't want to go against Mexican. If you're Puerto Rican, you don't want to go against Puerto Rican. If you're an Irish guy, you know what I mean? It's a tribal.
I'm never going to go for Puerto Rican, bro. I'm just joking. Go ahead.
And it sucks. I mean, those guys are not boxing fans, but that's what drives boxing. That drives boxing. When I hear guys go like this, let me tell you this. When I hear guys go, how in the fuck did America vote for Trump? Well, Trump was way back with Bob Arum and Don King. As much as Bob loves to go like talk shit about Trump, dude, he's incited racism in boxing millions of times. There was no such thing as Puerto Rico versus Mexico, Philippines versus Mexico until he came along and decided to put a label on it.
Yeah. Here's the thing, man, and I know for a fact Joe Beeb disagrees with this, and I believe Dave too. But I think Wilder has a pretty good chance of beating Fury in the third fight. Okay, I
don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think he has one punch away. Well, let
me finish my point. So it's what I know. I know Wilder could hurt him because he dropped him twice already. All right. And he got up and all that. I get it, but if that knockdown in the 12th happens in the 8th, I don't know if he finishes the fight, right? And we know both of them could hurt each other, but I feel like he hit Wilder. I believe it was the second round. His equilibrium was off, and he couldn't finish him. Okay, it took him 6 more rounds for them to stop the fight. He couldn't put Wilder out of there.
I don't know.
If he's not off balance, and he's not all like because he was obviously off balance and everything. Yeah, I think it's a tougher fight for Fury, and maybe it's my eyes deceiving me, but I didn't catch it the first time I watched it. But as I've gone back to watch the fight, it looked to me like Fury was getting a little tired in there. I think the weight he was carrying was getting to him a little bit.
He was more active.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's saying like, why is there a third fight? And I disagree with the fact that there shouldn't be a third fight, because why was there a rematch with Ruiz and Joshua? Everyone said, oh, well, Ruiz is going to beat him again. Joshua's coming back too soon, blah, 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 blah. But I think Wilder deserves a third fight. And I don't hate the third fight. I still think Fury's going to win. But maybe Wilder will do better in this third fight. Maybe there was something wrong with him in the second fight. Just like Joshua, allegedly there was something wrong with him in the first fight with Ruiz. Maybe he can put up a better fight this time. But I just think that I just think that Fury's just a better all-around fighter than Wilder. That's just my opinion. But I think that Wilder could possibly go the distance in the third fight, but I still think he would lose.
You know what I think? Here's the thing, is that Fury got dropped on that 12th round and came back, you know what I mean? Like he did that, the whole Michael Myers, you know, right? They went back, and what he did, he was smart enough. He went to the Kronk's gym. You know, he had visited before. They had a game plan. If anybody has an upper hand right now, it's going to be Wilder. Because Wilder has everything to fix and correct than Fury. Fury had a perfect game plan. Wilder can throw that all off. I'm going to tell you why. Because he's not looking to do a tune-up fight to show us, oh, he hasn't changed. He hasn't done nothing in the camp. He's sticking to what he's done from the beginning, which is rely on his power. Do I like the third fight? I like it. Then I don't like it because I think it's too soon. I thought he got mentally destroyed. And what I mean by that is because of all the excuses that rolled out.
Well, here's the thing, Dave. Uh-huh. He seems to be in denial. So once you're in denial and you're blaming everything else except yourself, you're not in a position to correct your mistakes because you don't think that it's your fault. You're blaming everything else. So how can you?
An athlete. I mean, Joe, if you're an athlete, you know, in anything, you're going to go in denial. But at the same time, it takes a bigger man to go, okay, I'm not going to admit it, but I'm going to fix it. Because
hopefully that's the case.
Right. You know, and when he came out saying you're king, this and this and that, I'm going to do this. You know what that told me? Two things was like, okay, he truly believes this. Like he's really fallen into I'm the king and this is what I'm going to do. We just got to see it. Like the carpet's got to roll out, you know, but I'll go back again. It's not a third match. I would have loved to see immediately from him because I thought he was getting better as a fighter because I called him the Bambi of heavyweights. I just never thought his feet were underneath him. I thought he needed a lot of work, but I slowly saw him kind of correcting himself. Yeah. My question is with this. Fury knocked him out. How many times have we seen this? Knocks out the guy, becomes a king, is not hungry at all. Everybody's questioning Wilder, but nobody's questioning Fury. How hungry is he for the third match? Does he truly believe it's going to be an easier win? I don't think it is. When you have a guy that has 90-something% chance of knocking you out, bro, that's not an easy fight. I don't know. That's just me.
Absolutely. And for some reason, YouTube's telling me that I'm posting spam on my channel because I said thank you. Okay. What's up, Joe Lopez, 40 ounce and Blood, man? I want to, give you the mic here before we, end this fight, man. How do you think? What do you think of Wilder's chances in this trilogy, man?
Oh, man, I think he does have a chance because, he has his power, and I think he's a more skilled fighter than people want to give him credit for. He did seem off balance. His equilibrium was knocked off. And to be honest with you, he looked off balance in the very beginning of the fight, even when he was coming out there. Was his water poison? Absolutely not. I don't believe that. But I think he has a very good chance. It depends on how much of that hype that he believes that those people out there are pushing out there, okay? If he comes in shape and he works with the right people and he takes the advice from a great guy like George Foreman, who's also going to be working with him, that's a key factor for Deontay Wilder, George Foreman, okay? He needs to listen to George Foreman well because George Foreman would have a lot of advice as being the bigger guy who's used to going in there and smothering people's punches and making sure you move away from the power hand or whether you decide to move towards the power hand and smother the power hand. Like all of that stuff, he has to be ready for this stuff. So I'm going to make a prediction as I know who he has in his camp and what his plan is. I think it all comes down to Wilder and how serious he takes everything, okay? He does have a very good chance if he listens to the right people and not listen to his stupid-ass fans who are the dumbest, most protective fan base that I've ever seen on YouTube, even more protective than the fucking Pactards, and that's ridiculous. You know, and that's you guys.
You know what I like to see Wilder do, which he does have, is a great jab. I mean, yeah. I mean, he could really knock Fury back, you know. And Mike 202 saying like, what excuses? I mean, bro, you don't pay attention. What excuses they were making? I mean, come on, you know. Let's be real here, you know. I mean, we're boxing fans. I mean, we got to call everything out and stuff. But you know, Fury, great jab, and you know, and when he stays focused, dude, he throws things down the pipe. It's when he kind of gets like out of pocket, and I've always complained about that. Like he gets out of pocket, his legs are not underneath him. He gets overexcited, and the reason why he does that is because he started late. And if he listens to his camp, man, I mean, the guy can do a lot. You know, he's not one of these guys. He's not one of these guys that just, you know, decided, oh man, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna get good at it and then I'm gonna lose. This is a guy that has been focused for a long time. You know, I mean, he's really focused on being the world champion. He believes, and I think that's the big thing. He believes I should be the world champion. You know, I may not agree that he should take on this third fight, but like I said, I think what's more riding with the fight is what is Tyson gonna do? Is he gonna still think that I'm gonna do the same thing to Wilder, or and Wilder's gonna go, you know what, you figured me out the first time, which a lot of folks don't even talk about, and his trainer did, his ex-trainer, I mean, Tyson Fury's ex-trainer brought up, is that Wilder likes to bring that right hand to his nipple in that jab before he likes to extend it out. And if you go back and watch that fight, every time he did it, Fury stepped back.
Yeah.
That's something that Wilder's got to correct. Stop projecting, pick it up, and just shoot from the elbow.
There you go. And that's a breakdown. You don't just get anywhere, man. And at the end of the day, regardless of what's been said or what not said, like, here's what I know. A lot of excuses came out, and Wilder never came out and corrected them. He never said, hey, I didn't say that. Like, you know what I mean? There was a lot of silence. I'm just kind of responding to Mike 202. But I will say, man, I'm a fan of Wilder's. I've been a fan of Wilder's for years. You know, and I want him to win this fight. You know what I mean? Just like Beeb wants, you know, Tyson Fury to win. You know, it is what it is. But I
love Tyson Fury.
my thing, it's like I want to call Beeb and I want to be like, "What's up? What happened, Beeb? Your boy got knocked out." That's the phone call I want to make.
But here's the thing. Once again, you can be biased but be objective.
Yes,
I don't think Tyson Fury is the lineal heavyweight champion because he was in the process of getting stripped and suspended because of the failed PED test. So it wasn't like it was just because of his depression. You don't think that because he was under investigation by the British Border Control and he failed that drug test, you don't think he was going to get suspended? The IBF already stripped him. And he was in the process of getting stripped and getting suspended. So he was going to be on a hiatus regardless of whatever happens.
Yeah, the lineal shit's bullshit. Yeah.
So you can't step out of line and then 2 years later say I want my place back. No, you got stripped and you were going to get suspended. You're not the lineal champ. You know, do I believe the board meat excuse? No. So I mean, you got to call it like you see it. Sugar Ray Leonard's my favorite fighter of all time, but he lost to Tommy Hearns in the second fight. I have to admit that. I thought he lost that fight. I thought it was bullshit that he made Donald Leon come down to 168 pounds to defend his 175-pound title and 168-pound title. The same fight for two titles in the same night. I thought that was a circus. I still love Ray Leonard, but I have to call things like I see it.
Yeah.
You know what would have been a great comeback, and I would have loved it. Would have been Waldemar Klitschko. If he would have made the announcement, that's something I would have went for.
Klitschko's been teasing a comeback for a long time now. So we'll see what happens.
That dude's old, bro. But you know, he could probably still beat a lot of dudes in the top.
He looks older than Mike Tyson. Let's be honest.
Yeah, right. Big Dog Willie, how's it going? Lennox Lewis is still the lineal champ, he said.
I agree.
Well, there you go. The Lion.
He's the lineal champ emeritus.
Hey, guys, it's been awesome. Okay, Afro-Rican, thank you for the support as well. Blood, give us some final words, Blood. Any words of encouragement for Wilder out there, or, anything.
Once again, when it comes to Deontay Wilder, man, he just needs to listen to whoever he has in his corner who has the experience, who's been through the type of things that he's going through. I heard that he's in good contact with George Foreman, and I think that that's a great start. I think that he needs to listen to whoever they brought in, whoever he feels comfortable with. I want to hear who his new trainer is. I want to hear the announcement. I've heard some rumors, but I don't know if they're true or not. So I want to hear an announcement come from Deontay Wilder in regards to the training camp. And I just say that, hey, go in there, be prepared for a guy who's going to come in there, who's going to be at least 20, 30 pounds bigger, at least 30 pounds bigger than you. Be prepared for that big body to be laying all over you. They're going to try to take away your power hand. He's going to be looking for that 1-2 that he always does, where he starts out with the jab to the body, where he goes to the body with the jab, and he comes up so slow. And you see Tyson Fury, who has such good vision, who fights tall, who fights like a guy who's 6'9". He fights tall. He can see the vision. He can see all that shit coming, man. He could counter all that stuff when it's coming in. So he just got to go in there, and he's got to be ready, man, mentally. He said that 95% of it is mental. So he's got to remember that. Remember his own words, okay? Other than that, man, that's pretty much all I got to say. Big up to Mike Tyson and Roy Jones and the older guys. Include Michael Nunn in the equation. Michael Nunn just had a fight with Pat Milicic a few days ago, okay? Old Michael Nunn and Pat Milicic was out there trading punches and kicks, and Michael Nunn looked like he could still have a little something. So let's get him in there with Roy Jones. I want to see – I know that Beeb and Ruff don't agree so much, man, but I want to see these old guys in there, man, making that money if they can. There's going to be some safety measures that will be taken for the older guys, man. But hey, let's let these guys go out there and live their dream. Mike Tyson said today on ESPN that he understands that it's a violent sport, but this is what these guys want to do. Okay, if that's what you want to do as a man, you have the right to go in there and make some money. And you guys know you're going to watch it too. You might not.
I'm buying it. I'm buying it.
Pay-per-view,
I'm buying. I'm paying for it.
Rough MP.
I'll show you the
they
Xfinity.
know they're going to live stream it.
I'll show you the Xfinity bill. I'm buying it.
Remember, G-Funk said I'm a boxing simp. Joe B is a boxing simp.
I'm a degenerate, man. I'm a degenerate, man.
I'm a degenerate too, but I'm not going to buy it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to G-Funk's house.
Hey, shout out to Paul, bro. I appreciate the support, man. Chicano Prophet, I appreciate the support as well with those super chats. Keeping the channel rolling. And I appreciate.
I'm going to make a prediction. You know who the new trainer for Wilder is going to be? Joe Goosen. I bet you Joe Goosen's in the corner.
Oh wow!
Well,
I have a feeling Joe Goosen's going to be in the corner.
That's a good prediction.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, before you get divorced, 97. Any quick words? He's gonna get a divorce, bro.
Hey, he ain't going anywhere, Bato. She's not going anywhere, homeboy.
You're ready to go on a date with a wife, and he's like, "Yeah, come on."
Yeah, we're supposed to go to dinner, man.
You know what? I'll tell you guys who somebody told me was going to be the trainer, but I don't know if it's true. Okay, so this is not. I just heard this from. I don't have no inside source. Okay, but I heard this from somebody. I heard that his trainer is Malik Scott. Okay. I'm just telling y'all. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but just saying.
I like that. I like Malik Scott.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm not sure how to feel about it, but all right. What do you think, Beeb? Any final words? Any thoughts on Malik Scott as a trainer?
We'll see. I just think the big thing I think that people don't realize with Fury is his ability to fight on the inside. He's such a tall, long guy, but he can fight on the inside. And that's where I think he had an advantage over Wilder. And I predicted that that's how he would fight the second fight. I thought he would smother Wilder, lean on him, and put his weight on him. And I thought that he would, really rough him up on the inside and body him. And he did that. And I think when he takes that space away from Wilder, that's where the advantage lies right there. You see, when he was fighting, even when he fought Steve Cunningham, when Steve Cunningham had space, he was able to get off first because he was able to utilize his speed. But when Tyson Fury took that distance away from Steve Cunningham and started mauling him, knocked him out. So I think that's the X factor in the fight is Fury cutting off the distance and making it an inside mauling type fight.
All right, man. Hey, I want to thank all you guys for coming in through, bro. So that is that, man. DStyle Boxing. Got Blood on here, 97 Rough, and Joe Habib. Okay, and Chicano Prophet, thank you a lot, man, for that super chat. Same for Paul. And let me bring this down here. Well, what is that? Hold up.
Yeah, oh, the mags, yeah.
Okay.
Is that air fryer right there?
Wow, look at that.
And then y'all see Jerry Cooney, and then there y'all see Leon Spinks, and then there y'all see Aguelo. You know, you see Aguelo and Pryor. And then y'all see, y'all remember this guy right here? Y'all remember him? Come on, 97 Rough. You remember this guy right here, don't you?
Is that Ayala? Yeah.
That's Ayala, man.
Yeah.
Tony Ayala.
Throw the Leonard one for Beeb again. You got a Sugar Ray Leonard there.
Man, you talk about, you know what next show we got to do is talk about guys that were supposed to be pound for pound and just never made it. Tony Ayala was one of them.
Fernando Vargas was supposed to be something, but yeah,
we'll save it. We'll save it for next episode.
Yeah, no, we're giving away free material here. All right, man. But hey, man, thank you again, guys.
What?
We're out.
It's them.
Thank you.
They're keeping me on here, man. They're telling me.
I'm out. I'm out before you get in trouble. All right.
Take care, everybody.